John, in those 26 years, you must have, well, you've done a lot of interviews. What's the strangest sort of place or belated or whatever you've had to do to sort of finish things up?
Well, there was a new trainer to Britain I was chasing, and I thought he would definitely be one to watch. And his name was Noel Chance, and I couldn't get hold of him. Every time I phoned, he was never there, or he never came back to me. So I was in Lambourne one night, and it was about 10 o'clock at night, and the phone box was there just before we had mobile phones. So I thought, I'm going to give him one last go. So I actually phoned his house it was about 10 o'clock at night. I said, look, I'm in Lambourne, can I come and see you tomorrow? And the reply was, if you've got nobody better to interview, yes, come along. So I walked into the yard, and we talked about the horses, and we went into the box, and it was a big box, and there was this horse stood in the corner, and he gave me the eye, the look, the white eye that horses sometimes have when they're stood in their boxes. And I thought, I know this horse from somewhere, I've seen him before. He was very recognisable, do you know what I mean? He was a big fella. And I said to Noel, so who's this? He said, oh, this is a horse called Mr. Mulligan. I said, oh, I remember this one running at Newbury, and he was a fence clear when he was trained by Kim Bailey. And he came down, I think. He said, yeah, he said, he's over that now. He said, these are lovely horses, you can see. He said, I'm going to start him off over hurdles, and then we'll go fencing with him. Anyway, he won first time out, I think it was Utoxeter, and then he won the Son of Lions and went on and won the Gold Cup as well. So just a chance phone call, and I got to know not only Noel Chance, but also Mr. Mulligan, who was a horse who I had at the back of my mind following that unique run at Newbury, and thought, well, I'll definitely follow this horse through his career, and he won the Gold Cup. So that was a good day. So I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed picking him up. There's been other trainers talking about Kim Bailey. Kim Bailey's always been good with me. I go to see. I remember when he used to train in Lambourne, and then he went not far from the M40. I've forgotten the place now. He trained around there, and then he moved to where he is now. But he's always one that I can call up and go and see him. Takes me on the gallops every time I go there. Real good guy to interview, nice fella. And also Alan King's one of my favourites, because same routine every year. Arrive there about 9:15 in the morning, go into the ring, pre-riding ring. He shouts out his orders, or he barks out his orders to the staff, telling them where he wants them to go, what he wants them to do. Then it's up onto the gallops, and at that time of the year they're only doing little canters, you know, just breeze ups. And Alan's fantastic. He's pointed me in the right direction of many a winner for his section of the book. I think we've had one fallout in the 20 odd years I've been going to see him. So that's a real interesting one. There was one trainer who I got into a little bit of trouble with, because I interviewed him for 2 consecutive years and he hadn't done anything. And I was doing the interview, and it started off, and I said, well, I thought I'd better come, because I said, you can't be this bad, so I've got to give you the 3rd chance. And he had a few winners after that. I'm not going to tell you who it was, I'm not going to embarrass the guy, but he collared me at Bangor on Day, pulled me by the shoulder, pulled me back, and said, see, I can train winners, can't I? Having just had a winner a few minutes earlier at Bangor. Another one who I have a lot of respect for is a good friend of mine, Robert Olner. Robert's, as you know, had that terrible accident, must be quite a few years ago now. But whenever I can, and I go to see him, if I'm down south on the tour, it was really good to me. I remember him collaring me at Bangor on Day, and there were a couple of horses that we failed to talk about in the interview. And he said, look, this one you got to put in, the Dorset trains him. This one's okay, watch for this coming out. This one, I know you like a bet. He said, you might want a few bob on this one. The horse was called Master Medic, and it won first time out at Folkestone, 50-1. I mean, again, a chance meeting, literally. But shortly after that, unfortunately, Robbins experienced his accident, which paralysed him for, you know, the remainder of his life. But he was an absolute gentleman. Sally, his wife, enjoyed us coming down, and hopefully, you know, he's okay at the moment. So he's watching this Robert, hope you're fine. I know you've got a copy of this year's book, and try and get to you next year. Paul Nicholls was another one I've been to see virtually every year that he's trained. When I first went there, he was just starting. He hadn't actually won the championship because Martin Pipe was keeping him on the periphery, although he was getting better and better every year. I think he only had about 40 horses the first time I went to see him, and I've been there every year. I go, sometimes it's a quick interview, other times it's been a bit longer. It just depends how busy he is. This year the interview was with Harry Durham, and it was an entertaining afternoon and also an entertaining write-up, which we disagreed over a little bit, but you know, that sort of things happens. I always send the trainers what I've written, and hopefully they'll be able to decide if there's anything that, you know, the owner might want to see in there or might not come across too well, and I'm always open to them saying, look, let's change that, and hopefully that's what will happen. Who else have we got? I just enjoy going around stables that are a little bit under the radar. There's one or two over the years. I mean, I used to always go in Lambert, call in to see Bender Harney. He'd only have 10 or 12 horses, but Grand National winning jockey.
Have you had any particular ones that have point blank refused to have you seen?
Oh yeah. There's quite a few actually, and it does disappoint me because I'm trying to promote the game. They get to see what's written. I've got one trainer who told me he didn't wish to participate, and he's well known because he lost a horse when he did an interview with the Racing Post one time. There've been a few others that say no. One lady trainer in particular, just the secretary said yes, and a few minutes later the secretary phoned me back and she said no, you can't come. So just point blank. But the majority of them, fantastic. You know, you go there and first time they might be a little bit cagey with you, but once they get to know me a bit and they know I've got the enthusiasm for the game, I love talking to the trainers, I love looking at the horses when I'm there. And don't forget, I'm travelling. At one stage, the furthest I did one year was over 2,000 miles, because I was down south into South Wales, up north into Scotland, and it was clocked over 2,000 miles. And there was one incident I went to see. I will say this: I went to see Lucinda and Peter Scudamore, and Peter said, "Don't go back this way. Go back over one of the bridges." So the sat nav wasn't registering that the roundabouts had gone, and it was just a straight road leading up to the bridge. And I got onto the bridge, and they'd only gone about 25 metres or something like that on the bridge. And the sat nav lady turned around and said, "Take the next left in 100 yards. I'm on a bridge. You're not doing that." The exchanges, I've tried the exchanges myself, and I don't honestly think they're working for me. I've come off course a lot compared to the travelling I used to do, say 5-10 years ago. And I'm office based at home for a lot of the time. I like the local courses at Haydock, Aintree, Bangor. I used to like Chester, but you can't see anything. I mean, I'm fortunate, at least I can get up into the stands and see the racing, but I'm not a great lover of Chester. But I used to love Haydock. I've had some right results at Haydock. Even last season, here's a funny one for you. Last season there was a race that was run in the fog. Don't know if you remember it. And the horse that eventually won it was trained by Evan Williams. Now, what happened there was that on the far side, this horse, which was called Klein, also in the book, he went down on his nose, barged into the running rail because obviously he was in the fog, got disorientated, and he was practically down on his nose. Now, he must have been, you couldn't see it, so it's hearsay what I'm being told. He must have been about 10 or 15 lengths behind the ones that were in the lead, and he's got so much guts and determination, the horse. He forced his way back, and it was so bad, the fog at Haydock Park, and I was in the press room, you could not see the winning post from the press room, and we're directly in line with it there. You just couldn't make out the shape of it or anything like that, and all you saw was the silhouettes of the horses going past, and I thought one of them was the horse at the back, Klein. So on the way to the winner's enclosure, just to check to see if he'd managed to get placed, the announcement came over that he'd actually won the race. I was just amazed. I don't think the race should ever have been run in those conditions, and I don't think they will take a chance like that again in the future. But it was just it was one of the euphoric moments in my betting career, that one. I didn't win an awful lot, but I just absolutely loved the feel of a horse coming through the fog. I didn't even get to see him finish properly. No one knew what had happened out in the country, and Evan Williams kindly told me that that's what happened. That's what happened to him. He's one to keep an eye on this season over fences as well. But I think the ring has changed an awful lot. I think some of the bookmakers are on course are not as good as their predecessors in that their public relations are not very good. I think that at one stage the each way terms were diabolical and they were pushing them out. But a lot of bookmakers now have changed this on course, and it does look to be getting an awful lot better. I know quite a lot of northern bookies, and I think there's only 2 or 3 of them of what I call old school. They do give a very good service to their punters. There are still a few I feel that could learn to be a bit nicer to their customers than what they are. And I'm not going to name names or anything like that, but my own experience of watching how they deal with people and also watching the reaction of punters is, you know, I've actually had a word with a couple of them and said, look, you know, you can't really do that to a punter. They might not understand the situation. I mean, one bookmaker, I put the wrong horse on one day, which is very, very rare. It happened, and I went back and I said, look, I backed the wrong horse, and he just said, oh, here, have your money back. You know, there was no, we'll change it for you. You know, it was a genuine mistake. The guy didn't really know me, but the bookies either side of him did, and I just got my money flung back at me, and I thought, that's not, to me, that's not customer care. And you've got to be careful how you treat people, because it'll bounce back on you one day.
Okay, John, 26 years of writing this book, Jumping Prospects. Tell us all about this seasons and what can it do for you if you buy it? Well,
this is the copy of the book, Jumping Prospects. You can end up with looking on the internet. I've got a website, jumpingprospects.co.uk. The book has 18 stable interviews in. I've gone to talk to the trainers myself, face to face. Unique, that's the way I'd describe it. I then decide which horses they've indicated are likely to be the ones that could prove successful, not only in the early parts of the season but throughout the season. The book is broken down into each stable interview, and at the end of the interview I give 10 or 12 horses from each interview that I think people should definitely be trying to follow. But the book has a habit of throwing up big price winners that you don't expect, so you have to really look each day at which horses are running. And the best way to do that is to put the whole index on a tracker, and then the tracker send you emails telling you when they're going to run. A lot of the older guys that have got to buy the book, they just like sitting down in the kitchen in the evenings looking on the internet if they've got it, or just marking off in the morning with the paper which trainers have got runners on the day, and then seeing if the runners are in the book, are featured in the book, and then they read what's being said. I do advise that on a weekend you try and put the horses into Heinz bets, or even lucky 15s, Yanks, multiple bets in other words, because some days, on some weekends, with all the big trainers being in the book, they're all going to be Saturday horses, a lot of them. So you might end up with 20 horses on any particular Saturday, so have a look at, and you've got to decide yourself which ones you want to go and put your bets on. But that's part and parcel of the game. You know, the book's unique. It's, I'll say it myself, it's well written, it's well presented, it's easy to read, it's informative, and above all, it's entertaining. And you'll get quite a few stories in there. And I don't like handicappers, by the way. I've got a real dislike of handicappers. And Phil Smith, the senior handicapper, is going to retire. I know Phil well, he's a scouser himself, but I'll be glad to see him go. He can go and ride off into the sunset. But he's a good man actually. But I've had an awful lot of run-ins with Phil. He usually walks the other way now when he sees me coming, because I'm going to bend his ear about a horse he's put on a rating that I don't think it should be on. But it's all good fun.